Welcome back, everyone, and thanks for joining us today. I'm Dominic Illo, the marketing manager here at Kershaw, and today I'm excited to be joined by Cheyenne Dalton, a competitive three-gun shooter. Welcome, Cheyenne. Thanks for being here with us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
No problem. Happy for you to be here. Cheyenne, you have some impressive competitive shooting titles under your belt. But for those of you that don't know, but those of the viewers that don't know you that well, would you mind giving us a little bit of your background?
Yeah, for sure. So I started shooting competitively when I was 12, and I started out with Rimfire Challenge first, and went to USPSA, and then moved on to three gun, which is what I do now.
Right on. So it's safe to say that you're definitely a fan of guns, and probably as a result, you're a fan of knives as well.
Yes, definitely.
I've also heard that you're in a band. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I actually started playing classical violin when I was 4 years old. And then when I was about 9, I switched to playing fiddle music because I thought it was more fun. And then when I was 10, we started the bluegrass band. And I eventually switched over to playing mandolin, which is what I play now. And we get to travel all over playing festivals. So it's tons of fun.
That's awesome. We're going to come back to that. I want to hear what stories you might have about traveling on the road. But before we get any further and talk about three gun and the band, I'm curious what your favorite Kershaw in the lineup is.
Yeah, for sure. So my favorite has always been my rainbow leak that I have. It's really special because you don't make it anymore, and everyone always asks about it because it's so pretty. So this one has to be my favorite.
Yeah, that's a great choice. The leak has been around for so long. It's a staple in the lineup. It's been so popular for many years, and there's so many variations on the market. It's a great go-to. Good choice. So you've been a Kershaw ambassador for several years, I believe about 5 years now. But were you a fan of the brand before that? Did you carry a knife every day before you joined us?
Yeah, so my family has always been a fan of Kershaw, and I actually probably started carrying a pocket knife when I was about 10 or so. Um, so yeah, I've definitely always had a knife on me.
Right on. And I believe you're from Missouri, so you're probably from the country, and certainly that played an important role in carrying a knife every day.
Yes, it definitely did.
Well, I'm fairly active in the outdoors, and I know you are as well. I've seen you occasionally out bass fishing and deer hunting. But other than those outdoor activities, do you find a use for your Kershaw on a daily basis?
Yes, so I definitely think my knife is most useful just in everyday life. You might even catch me using it in the kitchen, you never know. I work in a salon, that's like my full-time job. And so we're always getting new boxes of product coming in or whatever. So I just find that I use it in everyday life.
Right on. It's awesome. Glad to hear it. Well, I know you said you started off competitive shooting young, around 12 or so, but was it something that before that you always wanted to do and you knew you were going to end up competing? How did you go about getting into it?
Yeah, so I didn't know anything about competitive shooting, um, but we went and watched a match before I decided to start shooting. I went and watched a USPSA match, and then after that, I got involved in Rimfire Challenge, which is a 22 pistol and rifle competition. And then after that, I moved on to USPSA, which is an all pistol competition. And then kind of the next step for me was three gun, and so that's where I got where I am now.
That's awesome. I really hate to admit this, but I've never been to a three-gun match before. The gun club that I'm part of here in Oregon has an action pit and hosts some national matches, but I've never attended. So let's show a short clip to the viewers of one of your matches, and then maybe you can, for those of us that have never seen it before, tell us what we saw and maybe what's going through your head in that moment.
Are you ready? Stand by.
Drop it.
That clip was so cool. Tell us about what we just saw and maybe a little bit about what was going on in your head during that match.
Yeah, for sure. So it's so funny to look back at clips of me shooting matches now because you can always pick yourself apart and find little places where you messed up, or if you had done something differently, it would have saved you so much time. But that was from the Shoot for the Gold charity match in Kansas. And I loved that match because it's all bay style. And I find those really fun. I feel like you can go really fast on them. So yeah, I'll never forget that match, and especially that stage. It was a lot of fun.
Right on. It looked like it was a lot of fun. I can
Yes.
imagine that refining the skills really needed in competitive shooting, especially 3-gun, can be advantageous in everyday life, such as having to make such quick decisions and be accurate with those decisions, your hand-eye coordination, and really just, overall dexterity and agility. Would you say that's true?
Yeah, I definitely would. Even just, driving, doing everyday activities, I feel like you're able to do them quicker, more accurately. So yeah, I definitely think that's true.
Right on. Well, do you remember I mean, I know you said you were 12 at the time, but do you remember that very first match? What was that like?
Yeah, so like whenever I would start playing music and before we go on stage, I would always throw up before our shows because I was just so nervous. I wanted to do a great job. And then that same thing carried over into my shooting. I used to throw up for every match. I was just so nervous. I wanted to do great. But I'm so glad that I went and shot that first match. You know, if I hadn't have done it, then I wouldn't be where I'm at. And so I'm very thankful that I just pushed through and went and did it.
I mean, that's crazy. When you said that, I immediately thought of Eminem and 8 Mile when he talks about throwing up before going on stage for his battles every night. But I mean, I'm sure that, might feel a little embarrassing to tell, but I think that's totally relatable and understandable for you to be so nervous, especially at a young age, having to go out and
Mhm.
perform and be on a stage like that. So thanks for sharing that. Um, in the clip, we saw you have somebody behind you. They have, like some sort of box and they're asking you, shooter ready, and then you get a buzzer. Um, in that moment, what's going through your mind? Are you focused on, what steps you're going to take, what maybe that you need to really focus on because that's been a weak point, or what's going on in your head?
Right. Yeah. So, I would like to say that I always have it together and can keep it under control. But I think the reality for most people is that a lot of the time, kind of your stage plan and everything you've been trying to focus on just goes out the window. Um, but I think that's really what separates like the pros from the amateurs is like who can control their thoughts and who can remember everything versus the people that just, lose it as soon as the buzzer goes off. So.
For sure. I think that's understandable. I mean, you can practice and practice and practice, but until you're in that exact moment, you never know how you're going to react, right?
Right.
So what would you say has been the hardest aspect to become proficient and really competitive in 3-gun? What would you say that is?
Right. So I feel like for everyone, it could be different or it could be the same. I feel like some people struggle more with pistols, some people struggle more with shotgun, some people struggle with the long range. So if you're able to identify, what it is that is a struggle for you and you're able to work on that, then that can really help you become proficient all around and be able to put you at the top.
Sure. So you'd say maybe really focusing on your weak point and trying to bring that in line with everything else would be a big advantageous for somebody starting.
Yes, definitely.
Right on. That makes sense. Well, what's your pre-match preparation like? Do how much practice goes into a couple weeks before a match? Do you have any pre-match rituals or good luck terms that you always make sure you have on you? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so definitely practicing as much as you can. With ammo kind of being in short supply, then definitely you want to keep dry firing, practicing your reloads, because things like that can shave seconds off of your time. And at the end of the day, like if you look at match scores, people are separated by an insanely tiny amount of time. So if you're able to, shave time off here and there, then it really adds up in the end. And then I used to have a pair of socks that I would wear like for every match. But those eventually, I don't know, they got lost or the dryer ate them or something. But no, not anymore. I just try and, practice and remember everything that I've learned.
Yeah, that's understandable. So we gotta, since you brought up those socks, you gotta tell us a little bit more about them. Did they have some fun design on them? Were they mismatched colors?
I don't even remember what they were. Like, I think they might have little cows on them. And and I started wearing them, when I was practicing, and like I guess at that point in time I had improved a lot, and so I just felt like, oh, maybe they're helping me, which obviously they weren't. But yeah, so I just loved those socks.
That's funny. Well, on a lighter note, is it me or is it just a little frustrating to watch action movies and watch scenes where, the actors get in a gunfight and they never reload? Do you have any pet peeves like that in movies that you see?
Definitely. I try to not think about it because I'm like, it's just a movie, it's just a movie. But yeah, definitely like the way they're holding their gun or their grip, or like there's so many things. You don't want to take me to watch an action movie because I can just tear it apart. But
I bet, yeah. And I'm sure from your aspect, like you said, it's hard to just get involved in the movie because you want to focus and nitpick those things that they're doing wrong.
yes.
One movie that seems to come to mind for me, it seems, from what I've heard, they kind of got that right. And from what I saw was seemed to be true, was Keanu trained in 3-gun for the John Wick series, didn't he?
Yes, that's true. And that helped a lot because they actually know what they're doing.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed those, I think 3 of them now. And they're just real fun movies to watch.
Yes.
Okay, before we go any further, I want to come back to what I mentioned earlier about any fun story on the road at the band. So, is there any fun story that you feel like sharing with the viewers about maybe some venue you were at, or just something that happened on the road with the band, anything like that?
Yeah, for sure. So something that I've noticed about traveling is pretty much every trip we take, there's at least one thing that happens or that stands out and makes the trip memorable. But this past summer, we actually got to go out to Sturgis in South Dakota and play a bluegrass festival there. And that was one of the most fun festivals we've ever played at. The crowd was amazing. Like, they just ate up everything we did. So that was probably one of my favorite band trips.
Oh, that's awesome. Was that during the big motorcycle event that happened in Sturgis?
No, it wasn't. But it was super cool to just go out there and look around the town and, see the place. But yeah, it was definitely one to remember.
Right on. So what does 2022 look for you? What are you excited about? What's coming down the pipe for you professionally?
Yeah, so of course 2020 happened. That was a mess. During 2020, I was actually going to cosmetology school. And I graduated the beginning of this year. And so now I work full time in a salon. So I've been kind of busy with that. I also got married this year. But 2022, I'm looking to get back into shooting. I want to hit it hard. I want to start going back to matches and yeah, get going again.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on
Thank you.
getting married and finishing school.
Thank you.
Do you have any major goals that you're chasing within 3-gun or competitive shooting in general?
Yeah. I feel like for me, I've always just been, I want to get better, start placing better at matches. Of course, win if I can. That's always the goal. But yeah, with kind of just getting back into it, that's kind of where I'm at, just practicing, kind of getting back into the groove of everything.
Right on. What would you say, say, for example, 10 years from now, you look back at your 3-gun, career, for lack of a better word, and what would make you go, I can't believe I did that? What an accomplishment.
Definitely if I was able to win a match or even win high lady at a match, that would be, and then depending on the match too, that would be such a big honor. And that's kind of my goal. That's always been my goal. Is 3-gun's hard. And to be competitive in 3-gun, you have to be really good. And so just working towards that always.
Right on. Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, you always have to have a goal, and you always just want to be making those small increment strides to get to that point. So that's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, back to knives. Have you had a chance to take a look at the new models for 2022 yet? What are you looking forward to? Yeah.
Yeah, I am very excited about the new capsule knife. That is super cool. I love it. It's so cute. And yeah, that one I'm really excited about.
Right on. Yeah, the capsule, that was one that came out in 2021, and one of my favorites from that lineup too. But we've got some really nice ones we'll get to you for 2022. We've got a couple new USA made knives and some great things in the works. So I think you'll be pretty excited once you get your hands on them.
Awesome. Thank you.
So we're just about out of time, but I want to let everybody know that, you're going to jump down in the comments in the chat room here when we're done and answer some of the actual viewer questions. But for anybody that's a fan of yours or that's watching, that maybe that, this knives is kind of new to them, what would you say to them if they're hesitant about carrying a knife every day or hesitant about owning a knife? What would you say to kind of ease those worries?
Yeah, for sure. I think definitely starting with something small is always best. And I think once you have a knife, and you start seeing all the uses every day, it'll just convince you that, yeah, this is the right thing. It's always there, even for personal protection. You've got that right there on your hip, just in case you need it. So definitely don't be scared. Look around, shop around, find something that will fit you, and yeah, just go for it.
Absolutely. That's a great point. I mean, there's so many variances in size, both with the blade, the handle size, and just what will be comfortable in your hand and in your pocket. Because I'm sure, as you know, women's jean pockets tend to be smaller than guys' pockets, right?
Yeah, they're like non-existent.
Yeah. So you got to find something that works for you. And that's one of the strengths that I feel Kershaw really brings to the table is we have such a wide variety of different sizes, shapes, colors.
Yes.
And so there's really something for everyone out there.
For sure.
Well, Cheyenne, it's been great talking with you. Thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. And looking forward to seeing you at, hitting the matches here pretty soon. And everyone, I hope you have some great questions for her in the chat room.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.